What is up, team? Killchain here. Today, the week's PTR update, I suppose, has had a plethora of changes. Link will be down in the description. Feel free to check that out so you can see your class-specific ones. Today's video, super quick recap, but we're going to look through the lens of a warrior. And we'll start off with the big one that everyone's talking about is the Rallying Cry nerf. Now, I'll have it up on the screen as well. But Rallying Cry, the baseline got nerfed by 5% health, so it's only down to a 10% increase instead of 15%. But the more surprising part, at least for me, was the complete and utter removal of the Inspiring Presence. It used to be a talent node that shared like a choice node with Second Wind, and that gave you an extra 5%, allowing you to have 20% total, and then they increased the duration by 3 seconds. So less to do with the duration fact and more to do with the extra 5%. 20% health was very, very nice. Stack multiple rallies was a pretty relatively common raid composition choice that people made. Now with this nerf, not only from removing Inspiring Presence, but also the baseline nerf means we only get 10% and we'll never get more than that. Yeah, a bit rough, but also completely expected. On the flip side of things, for Mythic Plus, a lot of people were being like, oh, come on, you know, the warrior, the one utility we provided in Mythic Plus is now being nerfed. Wah, basically. I'm less really worried about the Mythic Plus side of things, because whenever someone was happy to make the compromise and bring you as a warrior, they weren't doing it because, well, at least he brings Rallying Cry, that'll be useful for XYZ. No, they were 100% doing it for your damage profile, right? We had really good damage AoE, kind of both specs can do it fine. Priority damage, relatively good for certain arms specs, tyrannical weeks, things like that, as well as Fury just fucking clapped when it came to AoE damage as one of the melee DPS as well. So that's why they were brought, their damage profile, not because they had Rally. It was a cool little extra, sure, but in Mythic Plus, the impact was definitely a lot less. This nerf was clearly based on rating, and that'll be fine. Even if Protection Warrior is still the best option in terms of bringing that Battle Shout buff, I still imagine we shouldn't have too much of an issue in terms of a raid spot. You might not necessarily stack as many warriors as you once did, but we still have a 200 legendary coming our way, and the execute damage profile of arms specifically is just conducive to progression rating. Whether you're progressing in normal, heroic, or Mythic Plus, it doesn't matter. But whenever you're like trying to beat the boss for the first time, execute damage profiles typically generally do quite well. So in that regard, I think we should still be fine. Like, you just might not necessarily always bring two. However, if you did, we should fit comfortably. And there's at least so far somewhat decent amount of cleave fights and AoE fights where Fury will stand on its own 2 feet. And then, yeah, some smaller cleave fights where, of course, sweeping strikes with arms is going to be somewhat beneficial. While we're on the topic as well, a couple of bug fixes for Fury. Titan's Torment now finally procs the 2-piece, for the guaranteed crits on Blood Strike. So there's that interaction with our T-piece. Yay! We knew it was coming, but they've finally actually tidied it up, so that's good. Keep in mind though, with this particular setup now, you actually still want to open up with actual Odin's Fury before you proc Titan's Torment through normal Avatar, if that makes sense. So proccing your Odin's Fury is still going to give you 4 seconds of Avatar anyway, but you want to do it after. You want to use actual Avatar after your Odin's Fury. Reason being is because of the interaction with the 4-piece. Obviously, you want to put actual Odin's Fury on cooldown as soon as possible, so that way all the crits generated from it are bringing it off cooldown as soon as possible. And that also includes the Avatar procced Titan's Torment version of Odin's Fury, because those guaranteed crits will be feeding and granting you cooldown or CDR on your Odin's Fury that has been put on cooldown, rather than just wasting them, right? So the opener will still run actual Odin's Fury before popping Avatar. Keep that in mind. Now, let's have a look at arms. So, first things first, the bug fix. We had Blood and Thunder now finally proc for our 2-piece set with the Sudden Death proc. But not only that, now it doesn't force actual Thunderclap to go on cooldown anymore. So that's really cool. That does mean that you could Sudden Death, get your free Thunderclap, and then subsequently reapply Rend, and then also Thunderclap again. Really good if you're trying to use that as your form of rage expenditure, that kind of thing. So for the typical anger management loop with Test of Might, that's going to be quite relevant, at least in my opinion, when you're running an AoE build. I think AoE is still going to push into Blade Storm, still run Anger Management, still run your Warbreaker, that kind of angle of things. very relevant in that regard. So that fix is actually quite useful for our AoE. As for single target, I've tried a bunch of different changes. The actual tangible class tuning that's happened is Slam's got increased by 25%, as well as the critical damage of improved Slam has actually been reduced by 20%. So from 30% increase to 10. Now, obviously they'd want to offset just the global increase of Slam being buffed, so it's not too impactful. As it stands right now, Overpower, specifically when running Battle Lord and things like your Strength of Arms, does still out DPS Slam in every capacity, right? So in terms of raw numbers, Overpower is better, and not only that, that actually feeds into the gameplay loop of martial prowess, giving you Mortal Strike, so you could go Mortal Strike, Overpower, Mortal Strike with Tactician procs and everything like that. However, Slam is still at least there as providing value for the actual rage dump. We don't get it through other sources anymore. I've tried running both the old school build that we're currently running in 10.17 and using Thunderclap. Although its damage isn't that great, you're just funneling it for the rage expenditure, and likewise picking up Storm of Swords to really funnel the Whirlwind. Again, the damage from Whirlwind isn't that great, but you're using it for that big girthy extra rage expenditure to try and build up a Test of Might proc within that realm. We know Ignore Pain no longer works with any of the anger management and stuff like that. Because of all this, we're kind of shifting away from that playstyle, again, from what I've found and my testing thus far. And we can also include that for a single target, at least, running Spiteful Serenity instead anger management. So the most notable part here is it really puts us into this 45-second damage window. So that one nicely marries up with every second damage window, lining up perfectly with your avatar and Thunderous Roar. Okay, cool, we'll take it. But more importantly, you're getting a really long Colossal Smash duration time to then build up as much of a Test of Might as you can. Whereas originally in 10.17, as it is now, with how much rage cost spending that we currently have, our rage situation, we're typically fully buffed can get 30+% strength. Unbuffed, as it stands right now on the PTR, if you just ran this same old standard build, it really does drop down to around the 20, 23. I think one time I saw 26. And because we've lost Ignore Pain as a possible culprit of just dumping a lot of this extra spare rage. So with part and parcel of that, allowing us to spec into Spiteful Serenity gives us that extra duration to just funnel even more into that space. As for the gameplay loop, I've shifted and found the best results with actually going while Colossus smashes up and I'm trying to build up the Test of Might, just send Mortal Strikes and Slams. Your two buttons you're hitting is just all that. Only overpower whenever you necessarily need to, because there's literally nothing else to do. But then when the Test of Might buff comes, which currently as it stands, completely unraid buffed, I'm just using my own personal buffs, I'm getting 40% or more. So I imagine in terms of by the time we get all the other raid buffs, you're running haste runes and everything like that, your global cooldown is going to come down quite nicely. I completely expect us to see 50% strength increases and stuff like that, which will be really, really nice. As soon as you're in the Test of Might mode, then you'll be switching to prioritizing Overpower and Mortal Strikes above anything else, because you're trying to get your Martial Prowess and Tactician proc gameplay loop, just to be able to go Mortal Strike, Overpower, you get the idea. So that's going to be really interesting. The Sudden Death procs will be having extra value with the Executioner's Precision, although potentially not sure where that will land, given that even during Execute phase, for example, Strength of Arms might not necessarily bring as much value. It could be worth dropping that to pick up Fatality still. Not sure. We'll see how it plays out. But I can definitely see this being the sort of shift that we're moving towards with the Spiteful Serenity and just having that much more rigid 45-second damage cooldown window. And even as it stands, nothing will change in regards to the execution phase of 35% and lower with Massacre. The first, however many global cooldowns required to get your Juggernaut to max stats is all spent on executes. And you're going to have a lot more free executes through Sudden Death and the whole two-piece interactions and everything. So yeah, your rage economy, I suppose, during execute phase is actually not going to need the Strength of Arms there either. So that's why that becomes a good potential point to kind of flex wherever you need it. Whether you flex it into Dreadnought or whether you pick up Fatality or whatever the case may be, it remains to be seen. And this build might not necessarily work, but this is what I found works pretty solid in terms of the raid testing and stuff like that. Very bare bones testing, and raid dummy obviously as well. And the last thing I would want to note, I do think your AoE build will still run the kind of typical Blade Storm where you can pick up your anger management stuff, so nothing changes in that regard. As for the crucial pickups for any slam related, if you're trying to slam at all, you're going to want your barbaric training that increases your slam by 30%. Then you want crushing force, which as you can see deals an extra 60% and has increased crit chance, and then improve slam in the actual spec tree. So if you're, now that they're buffing slam, and it's kind of our only option to be spending rage, unless if we just do what we're always doing, then yeah, they're the 3 key talent pickups that you're definitely going to need in some capacity. And likewise, overwhelming rage at least sees value in that, because as you're able to cap out your rage, you know you've got that whole rage pool to dump during your Colossus Smash window on slams. So yeah, that's how we're looking at the moment. I'm excited to see where it ends up pushing for arms. I don't even know if this will end up being even remotely close to what ends up as the go-to spec for raiding and everything like that, but I can see value in how this is set up at the moment. And I look forward to some more raid testing to give this a shot in a real environment where I can yeah, properly get some execute phase rolling and yeah, check it out. That being said, thanks very much for watching. Hopefully if you guys have any other thought processes on how the Fury and Arms changes are kind of going to affect everything, let me know, and I'll see you next video. Peace.